Hey guys, I want to share with you the program that I offered at PPS that I did at PPS. It's the big private practice section conference for the Physical Therapy Association in the United States, and it was last Friday in Dallas. And I felt like it didn't go all that well. I'm going to be perfectly candid with you. So I wanted to do a do-over and then make it available to you. Um, so the title was Marketing Magic, Defining Your Target Customer and Wowing More of Them. Now, before we keep going, what I want to do is show you that, well, we've got our objectives, and this was kind of a requirement for submission of the talk and all that stuff. But we're going to define and describe your target customer and what makes you special, your business special in their eyes. We're going to talk about dialing that up a little bit, okay, in order to attract more people. And then you'll be able to use this what makes you unique to think about your marketing messaging and how you're going to attract more of your ideal target customer. So you can get the slides and the workbook at bit.ly/pps-3. It is case sensitive. We learned that in the beginning of the talk. It is case sensitive. So type it in this way, pause it and get it. And what you'll get over there is these items. So the slides, the handout workbook that you can use in PDF or in Word. So go ahead and give that a shot, and you can work through it as we go through this. So the intent here is for this to be a workshop. This isn't a rah-rah, leave with spine tingling emotion or whatever. This is practical stuff that you can do in your business to make a difference, okay? And what we want to do is have people really implement things. So my big mantra is simplification and implementation. So you're going to find this is a simple, straightforward way. It's going to require you to think a little bit though, but we're going to try to boil it down and make it really straightforward. So generally the three big problems or challenges that we run into in a private practice healthcare type setting, payers and payments, always an issue, right? Hiring great staff is another kind of big issue. And then acquiring patients. We want to acquire patients that value what we do, not just volume, but quality, match, fit. Okay. So marketing hasn't changed in 100 years. It's still a strong message told well in the right place. And I would add to the right person. Okay. So, and that's Matt. Matt's my co-author on the book that we'll talk about later. But this is all premised on who your most powerful marketer is, right? Your most powerful marketer is your patient. When they go out and tell other providers, they tell physicians, they tell their friends, they tell their spouse, they tell their coworkers, when they talk about their experience with you, they're potentially the most powerful marketer that you can have, and we want to learn how to leverage those. So it's better to understand who you are than where you're going in today's unpredictable world. So we're going to have you looking internally as well, okay? And as we put this together, Marketing Magic is going to consist of your target customer, okay, the right person, the brand promise, what your message is, and the value proposition. Then we'll talk about channels and some other stuff at the end, but really we're looking at these three things. Now, this is going to require you to think. So that's why you have the workbook. Really want you to write stuff down, commit it, share with your team, work through it a bit and refine it. Your first draft won't be the final, all right? It won't work, it won't click perfectly, but you'll get on track and you'll start having ideas. And then as you document it and put it down and commit to it, you can start to refine that. It'll get better and better over time. So what we want to do though is focus on our target. When we aim at a target, we don't aim at the target, right? We aim at the bullseye. So we aim at the center, and that's who we want to define. When we aim at the center, we don't always hit it. And that's a big point here. If we aim at the 10s, we aim at the bullseye, we're going to hit 6s and 7s and 9s and 8s and all the others, okay? So our premise here is to delight the few to attract the many. Now, when we delight the few, we have to know who that individual is. And there are kind of three categories. And by the way, this is in the book as well, and I'll show you at the end. But three categories that we really want to look at: psychographics and behavioral items, and then demographics is third. And demographics tends to be what we focus on. Somebody brought up in the talk, well, my target customer is the 40 to 60-year-old female with kids. Okay. My challenge question then was, where did you learn that and why? And they couldn't come up with where they learned it. But I will submit to you that a lot of times it's the big companies, the people who are successful up on stage telling people that that should be your target customer because she makes it a healthier decisions, or for everybody else. There's some truth to that, okay? But what I want you to think about is, who's your ideal client? And in other words, who are you excited about seeing on your schedule at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon? Okay. Who are you excited about seeing at 7 a.m. or first thing Monday morning on your schedule? Who are you willing to shift or move your lunch for? And not just willing, but excited and happy that you get to see them. And my guess is that doesn't fit a specific age or gender demographic. All right. And this is where you get crossed up a little bit. Because then people start going, well, my 17-year-old cross country runner and my 83-year-old tennis player and my 52-year-old gardener, and notice I didn't even mention their genders or the rest of it. I really like these certain people, the retired kindergarten teacher, or the young girl with cerebral palsy, who's really motivated to walk and kind of do better. So what are those psychographic, those values and beliefs and opinions that really click there? What's the common thread through all those different people? Okay. What are their behaviors, their loyalties, their habits, their wants, their physical activities? What do they do that makes them that person? And then you can start to fill in the rest of this. Okay. Like, what media do they consume? What media do they participate in? Right. Who are their influencers? And you make a comprehensive list of all these different items. And in the workbook, we have you start focusing on two, and just kind of to get started while you're doing this. But you really want to work through with your team, who are these people? Because our default will go kind of toward certain diagnoses, or we tend to fall back into the demographic stuff. The demographic stuff exists, okay, because you can count them. It's easy to count 40 to 60-year-old females with two kids, okay? And that persists because when you're raising funding or pitching to equity or even a bank loan, and you can count the number and size of the market, that's compelling to those people, okay? But that's compelling if you're trying to be all things to all people, if you're trying to really serve a giant market. If you're focusing on running athletes, all you have to do, by the way, is look at, go like mock up a Facebook ad and look at the size of audience within 15 miles or 30 miles or whatever of your practice, of your business. And you'll see that the numbers are really quite huge for most of us. So I want you to focus in on the psychographic behavioral pieces and a little less on the demographic as you get through this. Now, your brand promise is a value or experience that your patients and customers can expect to receive every single time they interact with your company. There are three parts to the brand promise. We're going to break that down. And again, you've got this in the workbook. First one is your blunt overt benefit. Okay, the WIIFM is what's in it for me. They need to understand clearly and simply what's in it for them. Why? Why should they come to you? What's compelling. Now, we're going to be focusing on these items, as I said, internally. The brand promise is internal for us to figure out the messaging and the rest of it. So we're going to answer these really candidly, brutally, honestly with ourselves. Answer the question, so what? So when they're considering you or thinking about you, so what? Why should it matter? Okay. Now, with a blunt overt benefit, if you're really clear about this, and it needs to be really, again, clear and simple, you're 3 times more likely to be successful. Okay, 3 times. Now, second piece, and this is super important, okay? Dramatic and meaningful difference. What makes you dramatically and meaningfully different in the eyes of your target customer? Why you? Ask them. This is your unfair advantage. The reason it's your unfair advantage is because you are likely in contact with these people every day. And if you compare that to the hospital systems or the big chains or the big companies who are doing whatever, those people making these decisions around marketing, those people making these decisions around the customer experience, those people doing the hiring, setting the vision, you name it, they're not in direct contact with the customer. right? They're doing focus groups and research and asking you guys and all that. No, you're in contact. Ask your patients, okay? Ask them, why'd you choose us, right? Why'd you come back a second time, right? Why do you consistent? Why have you been coming here for several years? They will tell you. They will tell you what makes you different. And what you want to do is you want to then take that and number one, embrace it. If it's quirky or weird, better, even better, right? The more outstanding, the more different you are, the better off you are going to be with this whole concept. And then we want to be remarkable. And Seth Godin talks about this idea of remarkability, remarkableness, remarkable. Remarkable means worthy of remark. Okay, so you want to be remarkable, you want to be worthy of remark, you want to make it into the top 3 conversations or discussion topics at dinner that night. How are you going to do that? How are you going to be outstanding and remarkable and worthy of remark there? Okay, and the third component of your brand promise is a real reason to believe. Okay, how are you going to make good on your promise? How are you going to follow through? So as you're you're setting up the blunt overt benefit, the dramatic and meaningful difference, how are you going to get them to believe and understand that yes, you do in fact will do, you will deliver, you will deliver on that. You got to tell the truth. Okay, look at the small stuff too, the little things that are that, well, when we go back to asking those patients and customers what makes you different, pay attention to all the things they tell you. Pay attention to details and listen to them and really try to understand why they're choosing it, because that's going to appeal to other people like them. All right. And you can offer other reasons, other ways for them to believe. If you're personally experiencing your service, whether that's talking like this, or doing a webinar, or videos on Instagram, or coming in for a screen, right? Any of that stuff can have them kind of personally experience what you're about. And let's face it, people don't buy healthcare off of Facebook ads, right? So everybody who's doing that stuff has to have some kind of workshop and kind of progression of rapport and trust along the way before those people actually sign up as paying patients and customers. So giving them that opportunity to personally experience what you do or you offer, that can create affinity, that can create rapport, that can start to create trust. And I mean, it's kind of, for some of us it's a little gross, but there are people doing this on Instagram and TikTok, and the dermatologists are a great example of like looking and critiquing and talking about other people's the way they're doing things, and they're building that rapport and trust and actually marketing themselves and their practice in doing so. Your heritage or pedigree could be another one. So how long you've been in the community, we've been doing this for 30 years or since 1982 or whatever it is, that matters. I've seen, people talk about locally born. One of my friends from college, Chris Radpour, right? He's an OBGYN, and in his profile page, he was, born and raised and went to high school here in the community kind of thing. And those things can, again, kind of generate some rapport and trust, and maybe a reason to believe you're invested in the community, you're there, you're not going to mislead people, because you don't want that to be your reputation. Testimonials from patients is another great one. I know that's been problematic in some places in Canada, where the college is not allowing that stuff, but there's still ways for people to tell their stories and to do more of those testimonials, and they can post what they want. It's just that you may not be able to advertise it. So, that word of mouth, basically your leveraged word of mouth, is another big one. Guarantees can be a little problematic with licensure boards and stuff, but there's still ways to guarantee, maybe not, will get you better, your money back or something, but, will they be happy? Will they be satisfied? And if not, we will, we'll take care of you or get you to the right place. Or there are all kinds of ways you can think about that as well. Credentials can work. I mean, if you're a fellow of the academy or whatever, but really a lot of that stuff works more on our colleagues than it does on patients. Okay, but maybe another real reason to believe is if you do hundreds of these surgeries a year, right, or hundreds of these procedures, or you've got some, a dedicated office and setup for this thing, those can all be credibility things, reasons to believe. When you add these things together, Okay, we talk about dialing it up too. The one overt benefit, the dramatic meaningful difference, the real reason to believe. When you've got a brand promise, this is from Spinal Tap, right? Ours goes to 11. We want you to dial it up. We want you to take whatever those things are and really dial it up. Stand out, okay? That's a critical point. And your UVP, as we start to phase into the external messaging and taking your brand promise and putting it together for an external message, in the 70s and before, they used to talk about good, fast, and cheap as kind of being the paradigm. That's totally outdated. What we're looking at now is meaningfully different. That's what's going to lead you to success. And this will make that a little bit clearer. So take a pause and look at value discipline. What I want you to do in the workbook is write down 2 companies in each. Okay, I'm going to describe them first, then we'll go back and talk about the companies. Operational excellence, we'll start on the right. Operational excellence is a broad audience, a broad reach with relatively low profit margins, and they get their profits through efficiencies. So the more efficient they can be, the lower they can keep their prices, the faster they can deliver something. Those are the things that are going to make a difference in the operational excellence world. And these value disciplines, by the way, are like these 3, all companies essentially fall into one of these 3 value disciplines. So write down a couple names of companies under operational excellence that kind of come to mind for you. Product leadership. Product leadership is when you're doing something qualitatively different from anybody else. Okay, you can think one of my favorite examples, if you remember this, was the iPod. How many MP3 players were there before the iPod? Dozens, right? I think the iPod was the 18th or 37th or something MP3 player hit the market. MP3 players are really difficult to use. Okay, and they were just hard. They were hard to load songs onto. They were hard to skip around. They had a weird interface. They had funky names. And then Apple came out with the iPod. Right, the iPod had a dial on it. It had a plug. If you remember back the marketing or look for the marketing, the silhouette, dancing, and their tagline was 1,000 songs in your pocket. That was huge, right? That was their UVP, 1,000 songs in your pocket. So that was qualitatively different because at that time we were all carrying around CDs, right? We had CD folders in our cars, and maybe your friend had you had a CD changer in the trunk that took up a bunch of space and had 9 or 12 or something CDs in it. In order to get to that was 100 songs, right, or 150 songs, not 1,000. But you could put 1,000 songs in your pocket, and that was a huge deal. Well, you can still think of Apple today. You can think of maybe Samsung. You can think of Tesla is a great example of product leadership. It's qualitatively different. They're doing something other people are not doing. Okay, but unless you have people lined up around the corner, a huge wait list, you release something new, and people are scrambling to get there, and the PS5 might be another one to think about, because if you're familiar, they're selling for $1,000 and more because you can't find them. There aren't enough of them, and they're the newest, latest gaming console and stuff. So people are buying them when they can get them and then reselling them for profit, really marked up. The third one is customer intimacy. Now, customer intimacy is really thinking about customized, specific ways of taking care of each individual. Sound familiar? Okay, so customer intimacy is that idea of customizing the approach. So you can think of some bigger companies, but I can't think of a better example than private practice in healthcare as a customer intimate model, right? You're not doing the same thing for every back pain patient, at least I hope you're not, right? You're not doing the same thing for every TMJ patient. You're not doing the same thing for every person with a specific diagnosis. You're doing an assessment and figuring out where they are, asking about their goals and plans, where they want to be, and figuring out a plan of care to get them there, right? That's a customized approach, tailored approach to each individual. Now, I won't go down this rabbit hole, but just want to make a point of, if that's your value discipline, why are we all accepting what Aetna says we're worth, or Blue Cross or Blue Shield or Cigna or UHC, or the list goes on, right? When we let them basically tell us what we're worth and set our prices, we're working in that operational excellence kind of playing field with a customer intimate model. All right, and if you want to hit me up on that, we can talk more about that, but I'm going to leave that there right now. But what I want you to do, my ask of you is that if you list a couple of companies in customer intimacy, you got a couple under product leadership, a couple under operational excellence, think FedEx, Amazon, Walmart. There are a bunch of them over on the operational excellence side. The question is, in which of these will you be world class? Okay, and if you think of like FedEx or Amazon, they are world class in the operational excellence. No matter what you think of their ethics or what they do or the rest of it, they deliver on the operational excellence, and that guides their decision making. And that's the important part here. Okay, product leadership. Apple, Tesla are a couple of great examples. Nike used to be. There's some others really doing things qualitatively differently. There are other electric cars, for example, right? But Tesla's just raking in the cash, and there's a wait list and all that. And yeah, you can customize your paint and do a few things, but ultimately they're offering something qualitatively different that others don't offer, and there's high demand for that. Now, let's go to this pricing thing for real quick. Operational excellence, what can you charge? You can charge what the market will bear. People will go somewhere else for the same thing. They'll go to Target or Walmart or Amazon. You know, we look at a website and then we go, well, if I can get it today or tomorrow from Amazon, I'll go ahead and order it there. It's more convenient. They're competing on that level. Product leadership, what can you charge? Pretty much whatever you want, right? Customer intimacy, what can you charge? Well, maybe somewhere between the other two, but you can charge more than an Amazon. Okay, and this is like the pop-up clinics in Walmart and other places that they've tried to do the doc in a box kind of concept or idea. People aren't in love with that. You know, there's a group of people that will access it for the convenience and stuff, but there are a lot of people that don't want to go there. They want what you have to offer. Okay, so again, our idea is we want to dial that up and use this in our decision making around our messaging and around our product delivery, service delivery, all the rest of it. Okay, so what I'm asking you to do is don't be a penguin. All right, when you stand out from the crowd and you're the tallest penguin, you still look like everybody else. You're still hard to distinguish, and really, who cares? Okay, so what we want to think about is how can you stand apart from the crowd? I want you to be a flamingo, a cheetah, chimpanzee, whatever it is you are, just not another penguin. Okay, and when you embrace that, it will start to become more obvious to those people that you're trying to attract why it's important to come to you. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, part of my promise was how, you know, and I don't do a lot of the how in these talks. It's more the what and the why. You know, you work with me to do the how, but I'm going to give you a sneak peek, a preview, and something you can work on in the workbook. Write down all the patient touch points with your company, your practice. Okay, that includes a referral from another specialist or physician. Okay, I know that's not inside your four walls, but that's still, when they hear about you from somebody, that's in their mind an interaction with your brand, with your company. Okay, your website, the first phone call, parking in the parking lot. Okay, walking into the office for the first time, being greeted, the paperwork, the clinical. And the reason I'm calling all these out is we as clinicians, if you're a clinician owner, you will tend to think, we tend to bias ourselves or think about the clinical interaction, right? And it goes way beyond that. Their experience with a company is the phone call, the interaction with the front desk, the paperwork, the waiting, the billing afterward, the website, anything, social media or articles, your blog, you name it, those are all touch points. Okay. Now, a subset of those touch points and the things I want you to really think about here are the moments of truth. Moments of truth are those things that you want, those are the things their patients are already telling you that you're good at. They're already telling you that you're different. Okay. These are the things that you want to be known for. All right. And we have kind of a ranking of basic level of service and egregious service, criminal service, higher ranking, a way of looking at that in the book as well. But what I want you to do is with the touch points, you want to get it to at least an expected level of service. In other words, you want it not to suck. You don't want your regular touch points, all this stuff that you don't necessarily want to be known for, but you don't want those to be bad and be known for that, right? You don't want the bad stuff to be remarkable and talked about at dinner. Okay, so the moments of truth are those elevated touch points. Those are things you want to be different and positive, known for, and that's where you're going to elevate your game above expected level of service. You're going to go in desired, outstanding, surprise. You're going. That's where you have an opportunity to delight the patients, delight your customers and patients. Okay, now when you do that, again, we want to focus on those things you wish to be known for, right? But we want to be deliberate. And if you've got multiple people in your practice and in your business, you want those things to be consistent. And you want the regular touch points not suck to be consistent too. But we want those delightedness, those real things that really help us stand out to be consistent across everybody. So you've got to create processes around it. You've got to make sure everybody's on board and that we're all delivering that exceptional level of service, right? So we're going to see it through the lens of the old brain, just a real quick, and y'all can go back and review this, but I want you to take all the things that you've written down and you've done, that the value proposition in the your unique value proposition, UVP, and the brand promise items, and look at them through this lens of kind of that old brain, reptile brain, okay? Because this is how we make our decisions. We justify with logic, but we're not logical creatures. Okay, we're not logical beings, really. If we were, we'd be making different choices in a lot of situations, right? So our old brain tends to be kind of self-centered. We see contrast, again, that difference, okay? Self-centered, that's the blunt overt benefit, what's in it for me. The contrast, that dramatic and meaningful difference. It remembers what's tangible. So remember the reason to believe, okay, the tangible stuff. Remembers the beginning and end. So when you start with the message, you then recap with the message and finish is visual. So you want to give us aids. You want to give something that they can look at, that they can see, that they can follow to really get it. And we respond to emotion, right? What's the old Maya Angelou said? They may not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. Okay, and that's an old adage too. So we respond to emotion, we feel what's going on, and then we kind of categorize and make that logical. So we've got to have those interactions happen so that the patient feels like they've been taken care of. They feel like they're special and unique. Okay, you may see hundreds or do hundreds of these surgeries a year. Every different patient believes they're unique and different, and we have to craft our messaging and all to that point. Okay, so our value proposition, and this is the exercise from the book as well. Finish this sentence. Every time, this is your value proposition, your UVP, your unique value proposition, your promise to the patient. Okay, this is the external. Every time you come into our practice, name of your business, you will get what? What are they going to get? A solution, cared for, listened to, taken care of. I mean, what are they going to get? Okay, you'll get to your goals, you name it. This is up to you to figure out. Okay, but every time you come here, you will get this. And this is going to be external facing. This is going to be the basis of your marketing message. All right. I'm doing this with Matt Fitzsimmons, and we've got some of this from these are all in the book, and there's a whole lot more. And then maybe I'll be able to pull up a little preview at the end. But at first, I want to talk about a couple of things that came up in the Q&A back at PPS. One of them was channels. What about channels? Remember Matt's quote, okay, marketing hasn't changed in 100 years. The channels have changed. The channels keep shifting, and people are out there trying to sell you the different channels. Oh, you got to be doing Facebook ads. You got to be doing Google. You got to be doing SEO. Fine. Use the channel where your patients are, okay, or where your patients are at. All right. If they're AARP members, then why not advertise in AARP? Maybe the channel's too broad. Okay, maybe if they're AARP members in this area, is there a local group? If they're in the running clubs, can you do something there? If they play rugby, there are rugby clubs, right? There's soccer, there's, start thinking about where they are and how you can reach them there. One of the powers of social media is there's ability to kind of narrow and target people who have similar interests or the right interests or what have you, and that can work. But again, you're really talking about making the experience awesome for those individuals who already know, love, and trust you, who are already in your practice. You're dramatically, meaningfully different in some way. Use them in the community, through social media, on your website, and just generally facilitate and help them spread the word and share. Okay. Another super powerful channel is other healthcare providers. Okay. Primary care providers are seeing everybody, right? I mean, if you're treating back pain, 50% of those people start with a primary care provider. So if half of them are going there first, what's the primary care doc do with people with back pain? Okay, if that's your specialty, go let them know. But you've got to have this UVP, you got to stand out and be different so that they can hang on to that and they can remember because they're busy, right? You're busy. You're not going to think about someone else all the time, right? But at the right times, it has to come up. So choose the channels that where your patients are, where those prospective people that you want them to know about you, wherever they are, find that and use that. Now, having said that, there are people out there selling you Facebook ads and big marketing. You know, I remember there was a consultant who wanted a $40,000, thing to go through this and to make flyers and do all that stuff, right? Um, you need to look at customer acquisition cost, and this is something in software and Silicon Valley here they do all the time and all. But what I'm saying is that when you, if you do run a Facebook ad, okay, or you do pay for advertising in a local paper or a magazine or whatever channel it's on, and don't just include the money. By the way, if you do a podcast, you include your time. Think about what the cost equivalent is there. But what you're going to do is you're going to take the spend. Okay, let's say that we're spending, and there are companies doing this, $3,000 a month to run your Facebook ads. Plus, you've got to spend another 1,500, 1,800, which is also bizarre to me, on the ads themselves. Why I would pay somebody $3,000 to manage $1,500 ad spend, I'm not exactly sure. But from this, I then figure out how many new patients I got from that, how many leads were generated. And if you're not tracking that, that's an important one too. And then how many of those leads convert? So how many of these people are you generating? And what'll end up happening is they'll tell you, well, if your average revenue per new patient is $1,000, then you only need 4.5 to break even. Blatantly not true. Now, if you've got unused capacity and your clinicians are sitting around waiting with open slots, then maybe there's an argument there somehow. But let's break this down. If your profit margin, okay, let's use that $1,000 number just for ease. But if your profit margin is 15%, you're making $150 profit off of each new patient that comes sees you, right? That's after you've paid the staff, you paid overhead, you paid all your expenses, $150. Well, if we take that and we divide this 4,500 by 150, I need 30 new patients every month through that channel to break even. Okay. And I put this as a cost because it is, in a lot of ways, it shouldn't be. Okay. There are no expenses in business, so there shouldn't be. You only have investments. So if you're spending money in your business, it needs to be returning you something. Okay, either safety and compliance, that type of stuff, or a profit from revenue generation. And if you're spending money on things that don't turn into positive cash flow, into a return on your investment, why are you spending that? All right. And if you're looking at something like these Facebook ads or Google ads or SEO or whatever you're spending with an outside marketer or company, do the math on it and figure out what you need to break even. And then hopefully you want to go beyond that. Because if I get 30 more new patients a month, like in a physio practice, I need to have 1 or 2 more therapists on staff. That's an increase in cost on top of that, just to get to the break even point. Okay. So think on that one a little bit and let me know. And then let's stay in touch. Okay. You can reach me over at sturdycoaching.com. I've got a new fact page of frequently asked questions, what I do. You can reach me on email. You can schedule something with me here. Or you can even text me or call my mobile and check the QR code, and we'll leave that as a little surprise for you. But book is coming. Sign up. If you go to the website and sign up for email notifications and stuff, you'll get that. I've also created, well, I'll leave that a mystery. You can check the QR code and see what that is and jump in there. But I hope this is useful, and I do welcome your comments and feedback. questions and all, you can always hit me up on my email address or text. Thanks.